Hello everyone. My focus in this video is the power of symbolism through allusions, which can build deep layers of meaning into a poem, particularly when the symbol alludes to something such as a historical event, a belief or ideology, a sacred ritual or text, or another literary text. When combined with an allusion, the power of the symbol is imbued with the themes, messages, emotions, and ideas of the original, often subconsciously in the mind of the reader, who brings all their understanding of the original to the allusion. A quick glance at those on this slide will conjure many thoughts, ideas, messages, and feelings. It is that underlying understanding that often fleshes out the meaning and purpose of the poem or prose text for the reader. It may provide amusement, even satirical humor, through the connection that is being made to the iconic words or symbol of the allusion. It guides the reader to explore the ways in which the symbol captures the connection between their chosen symbol and the original text, succinctly adding greater power and depth of meaning. In this slide, I have chosen allusions to Gothic literature, a children's story, and a biblical story, which are used to create humorous cartoons. Allusions can be playful, such as the allusion to the psychedelic 60s in my poem, Destination Unknown, which captures all the chaos and social upheaval of the times and the sense that, at the end of it all, we didn't really know where society would end up. In this extended metaphor of a poem about the writing process, the allusion is captured through the symbolism of colourful psychedelic patterns and the language of the time. In the second stanza, combined with the word magic, subtly reminding the reader of the symbol of the 1960s drug culture, magic mushrooms. In my poem, If I Had a Little Red Soft Top, there is an allusion to the smashed abo types who like to be seen dining al fresco in Rundle Street. This allusion to popular culture satirically turns the fad of smashed avocado into a humorous, symbolic stereotype of the fit, fabulous, and upwardly mobile who frequent city cafes. Other symbols can be disturbing, such as the aftermath of a tragic pile-up on the highway. In Heartbreak Highway, the first stanza alludes to the cultural ritual of indicating a tragedy on the side of the road. It reads, "As you're travelling down the highway, careering round the bend, you come to yet another sign of heartbreak without end. There's a little pile of flowers, and a lonely teddy too. The sight of that memorial knocks the stuffing out of you." As you're travelling down the highway, feeling braver than a lion, you're plunged into a war zone that symbolises Zion. There are little piles of debris, the things they left behind, but it's the piles of absent bodies that are seared into your mind. These allusions are disturbing, comparing the aftermath of a tragic pile-up on the highway to a war zone that symbolises Zion, with its piles of absent bodies that are seared into your mind. This alludes to the ongoing conflict in Israel, and also acts as a reminder of the horror of the millions of Jews who were piled into mass graves after being gassed, images of a time in our history that will forever haunt us. I couldn't bring myself to add images for either of these verses, so I've used a picture taken on Highway 1 during the Christmas break. In River of Jealousy, the River Nile is used as a symbol of an endless and stinking flow of jealousy that taints everyone with whom it comes into contact. By alluding to the biblical story of Pharaoh struggling to hold on to his slaves despite the suffering it wrought upon his people, the vile repercussions of jealousy are taken to a depth that includes the realization that the pain and ugliness is self-inflicted and that there is only one way out of it. This contrasts with Pharaoh, who was unwilling to accept God's will for his people to be unshackled, and the suffering of his nation was not enough to humble his response for long. Instead, he led his forces against the people of Israel only to be vanquished. Through connecting the speaker's jealousy to Pharaoh's situation an inference can be made about finding a way out of such a disastrous and destructive situation by making a different choice. Literary allusions can also help the poet to convey far more than the symbolic objects, emotions, or events could provide alone. For example, in the art of creation, to connect the way we may feel at times to the storm in Lear is to indirectly demonstrate the confusion raging in our minds with overtones of egoism, jealousy, and capriciousness. The delightful act of making daisy chains becomes a symbol of impending madness when combined with an allusion to Ophelia. And by alluding to Frost's road less travelled, in combination with the symbolism alluding to Adam and Eve eating the forbidden fruit, our choices attain a menacing connotation and demonstrate that some choices do make all the difference. In the final verse, allusions to the theologian Karl Barth, the poet Wordsworth, and the creation stories in Genesis, as well as Frost's famous poem The Road Not Taken, bring the reader to the point of the poem in the final couplet. What a difference that decision made! What a dreadful difference! These allusions underline the seriousness of our decisions and their repercussions. In contrast, allusions can be used as a form of overstatement in order to create a humorous scenario. The promising young poet makes allusions to Keats, Coleridge, and Shakespeare for humorous effect, as the speaker, the mother of the young poet, mocks her son's overblown ambitions and tries to get him to face the reality of his real responsibilities, rather than wasting his days dreaming of a fanciful ambition. Here is the poem, The Promising Young Poet. The mother of an earnest young poet screamed, "Look at that lawn! Go and mow it!" The poet put down his book and with a withering look said, "That is not the province of a poet." The mother glared at her prideful young poet. "Keats was inspired in the garden and you know it. Now mow round that tree or you'll answer to me and end up a posthumous poet." "But the world needs another great poet. It could be me if you'd just let me show it." "That lawn's waiting for you. This is not Xanadu. Now get out there, you piker, and mow it." It's tough being a promising young poet when your own mother doesn't even know it. I could be writing blank verse. You'll be riding in a hearse if you don't spread this manure and hoe it. The tale of this passionate young poet has a Shakespearean end, wouldn't you know it? Day after desperate day, waiting for poems to pay, he became a gardener, not a venerated poet. These are just a few examples of the way a combination of symbolism and allusion can create multiple subtexts and magnify the effect of the poetic device on the reader by linking it to the themes, messages, emotional force, and tone of other more familiar texts. In this way, a poem joins our rich literary tradition, building connections between past and present. In short, my contention is that symbolic allusions act as a firm foundation for the transference of important perennial ideas and challenges in our societies through the ages, and encourage us to think deeply about them in the light of past wisdom. I've summarized my thoughts in this poetic meme. I think it captures the importance of understanding symbolism and being able to identify it and discern its meaning. When we miss the symbolism, we miss the message. When we miss the message, we miss the meaning. When we miss the meaning, we miss the purpose. When we miss the purpose, we miss the lesson. When we miss the lesson, we don't learn anything. I hope you've enjoyed my thoughts on the symbolic power of allusions. Until next time, I hope you find beauty in truth and truth in beauty, and that together they mean something worth pondering. Ciao for now.